Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching, episode 2 of season 5. For us, season 4 for the boys in the city forever red. And we finally have some stuff to talk about. Justin, our lives got a little bit easier in the past week or so, right since Friday of last week, where City finally popped the top and said, all right, we're going to start to announce some things. And then slowly and surely, everything kind of came at once on Friday. We've got a little stream this week as well. But how do you feel finally having a little bit of a trickle, right, of things for us to react to, kind of get on board, debate, and whatnot?
I love it. It was something that it was a very, very dark time, I feel like, where it's like, all right, well, we hired Corey Ray and there's some light. And then it went dark again. It's like, all right, when are we going to hire a coach? Then we hired a coach, Yoann Damet. And then it went dark again. We're like, all right, so was there a plan that they were going into this? Like, I know we were waiting for a head coach, but like, where were the wheels starting to turn? And then finally, the red smoke came out. And we're like, all right, so now something's going to happen. And then they just dropped like 5 news bombs in a matter of 6 hours, I think it was. It was 8:04 a.m., 10:05 a.m., and 12:01 p.m. all on Friday. And I'm like, all right, slow down, admin. I need to take this all in. And you know what? Jake? I'm actually excited about it now. You kind of had a chance to like digest it for a couple days, and now just get you a little bit more excited for some city soccer that we are now less than 40 days away.
Oh, it's unbelievable to be that close. But yeah, no, I agree. It's finally good to have some tangible things, and I would say also some exciting things. I think, I'm definitely excited over some of the moves that have been made for a variety of different reasons. And we're gonna kind of break into a lot of that here today, Justin. But off the top, we didn't talk about this before, so we can do it at the end if you want. But are you ready with your take of the day, your retweet or delete? You gonna lead us off?
I'm ready, Jake. I'm
All
trying
right,
to
go
pull it up.
for it.
I have a little screen share here for you.
Oh, okay. Well
Jake,
prepared.
this is one. It's been out there for a little bit, but now it's actually making some national attention on some social media. And I want to ask you. Actually, I guess it's a retweet or delete. Jake, I kind of dig these kits. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like them when they first came out, and then I threw them on Joao and Leuven here, and I kind of like how it looks. So that's my retweet. That's my tweet. You're gonna retweet or delete?
I'm deleting for now. This isn't like a permanent. I might bookmark it to be honest, to come back to when I can actually physically see them, because this
Jake,
picture, by the way,
no more bookmarking it. You gotta, you're not, you just gotta
okay.
either you gotta retweet or delete right now. You gotta decide.
I'm deleting as of right now. I'm deleting.
I get,
So
I get your hesitancy, but this is the whole point of the segment. Let's throw out some hot takes, and you
I
gotta
like that.
you gotta keep it or dish it right back at me. And Jake, I agree that on the surface, like when you just look at the kid, it looks like it's like they misfolded it, or like I've seen people say oil stains or something on the kit. But I'm like, once you put it on these guys, I don't think you're gonna really notice like the off gold there or whatever that gives it a little bit of texture. And I think it's gonna be a pretty cool kit overall.
My thing with it is I agree with like people thinking it's like a color of a towel is like a gold, like beige, like I think the color's a little bit off. Like it's not gold, but it's like kind of gold. It's kind of like a crap gold. Where I'm like, why? If you're gonna go gold, like go shiny. And also, if you're gonna go gold, you better win something as well this season. So I think it's a little bit like that. But I also kind of feel like we have such cool colors to start from, right? With like vibrant, whatever, pink, red, whatever you want to call ours, with the blue, with the silver, and we just kind of have left a lot of things untapped in our actual brand of colors so far. And I just feel like with away kits, I want to see some swings taken. Like, what do we have year one? Like that really gray one. Then we had this white one. I want to see a swing.
This is a swing, Jake, because that's what I was just about to say. The first one was gray with vertical stripes.
Yeah.
The second away kit was white with arch or river gray stripes. And it's like, all right, I don't need another version of a monotone color. Give me some spice. They went gold. It's not the vibrant yellow or electricity yellow that they talk about. That's like on the St. Louis flag and the Florida Lee and stuff like that. But because I think if you did that, it'd be a little bit of an eyesore. We don't want to be looking like we have a full team of Roman Berkeys running around. So they went a little bit more toned down, and I appreciate it. I think it's gonna rock.
We put it to the people though, Justin. Pull back up your poll.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that. We did put it to the people.
Yeah.
There was a lot of votes on this. We put some polls up, and not that many. This one got a lot. It was either gas or ass. And what is that? Almost 2/3 of the people said ass. So you know what? I'm going to side with the 1/3. I get it off the bat, but I want to pump the brakes, everybody. I think it's going to look pretty cool when it's on the field and on the actual dudes.
I did the same. I put the poll up on X, and we had just over 200 on that poll. 72, almost 73% said ass. So
Nice.
it's a 2/3 plus, sort of synopsis from our listeners saying what they think so far.
Yeah, I guess in between the two, it would be almost spot on 2/3,
Yeah.
67%. But you know what, Jake? If you remember when we had like polls about the first season, and we probably had like 90% of people say we were going to be ass. That's how I'm
Yeah.
feeling about the kids. Give me a
I
little
like the attitude.
optimism. Let's do it.
I like the attitude. But on this one, I'm going to go ahead and safely say delete for me. But I'm happy to have my mind changed. If things come out here and we see it physically in the flesh, some things hit different. We got some signings to talk about here, Justin. We've got our new six. And I don't, when I'm saying our new six, we have a new six. Is this the six we've been looking for forever? I'm not so sure yet. But we have acquired Daniel Edelman, a 22-year-old central defensive midfielder or a six. And we acquired him from the New York Red Bulls for about $700,000 in GAM or general allocation money. You guys don't need to care about that kind of stuff, but we'll try on your behalf. We've got him through this season, through next season, and an option for 2028. And the thing that excites me most with this, Justin, this is a guy, again, 22 years old. We talked about the profile of guys we want to start acquiring or kind of getting into the fold, into our roster. This is a guy that will appreciate, right? Like, you really hope that you haven't hit your ceiling, right, at the age of 22, especially in that position. More and more minutes. He's played a ton since he was 19 in this league. So he's been around for a while already, even at that young age of 22. But in the midfield, that's a role you can really grow into. And I think progress when you have guys like Leuven next to you, even guys like Chris Durkin next to you. Maybe Hartel can kind of bestow a little bit of that touch on him as well, bring a little more of that final pass into his boots as well. But this is a guy that you are going to have for the next, hopefully 3 or so seasons, and you're only going to see him take steps forward. So I love that because he's already coming in at a good clip. Really important player for the Red Bull. They have a young superstar coming up in that same position that's actually training with Leipzig right now. So I think that's why they, sanctioned his departure. But I'm excited about Edelman. He's got a fight to him, like a real dog attitude to him. So let's talk about that as well.
Yeah. So Jake, if anybody didn't see it, you can go out and look at our either our X post or our Instagram. He had a hell of a quote, and it's really about showing what kind of fight that he has in him. And then if you make that slide. He made that slide. If you swipe to your, see him absolutely annihilate one of the Barcelona players when they are in a friendly. I did have to hop in the comments to defend the kid. Reminder, this was on, I think it was July 30th of 2022. He was 19 years old at the time. Since then, he's had some incredible stats, and that's what I'm going to hop into. When I say incredible showing his growth as a soccer player and being a little bit more tame with how he's showing his aggression. So in 2024, his stats, he led the Red Bulls in minutes, which was capped off with a start in a total of 84 minutes, the MLS Cup final, where they made that magical run and lost the MLS Cup to the LA Galaxy. So one, has a lot of playoff experience already from that run and also being played in the final and being trusted to be able to do that at the age of what? That would have been like 20 at that time. So, and just like that, he has the most playoff experience of anyone on the team, I believe. And he for MLS. Thank you, Roman Berkey. And he was only 22 years old at the time. Second fact, moving on to the most recent season that he had, 2025. He was 5th in minutes for the Rebels. That also would have been 5th in minutes for our team. So it's not like he just had a weird year and slid way up the chart. He started 25 his 26 games played. And he did leave. And so, like, when I was saying that he was 5th in minutes, he led the team in passes with 1,100 passes at 86% completion rate. And that's 1,100 passes completed, by the way, which actually would have put him second on City, only behind Hartel. And actually, he had a higher completion rate than Hartel as well. So, are they safer passers or safer passes? Yeah, sure. That's his job, though. So when everybody's like, "Oh, he's not going to be able to possess the ball, progress it, whatnot," I don't need him to do that. If he's going to be playing alongside Leuven in front of the guys, I need him to win tackles and then get it off his foot cleanly and efficiently. And that's what I think he shows that he can do for this team.
Yeah, I want to talk about two things. I think those stats, you pulled those in there. I was blown away by the availability. Huge, like absolutely huge. Like young guys tend to have a little bit more of it than some of the older guys, but a guy like Chris Durkin, we couldn't keep fit last year. So for Chris Durkin, it's now we have the insurance policy for Chris Durkin not being Chris Durkin, and we have someone that will push Chris Durkin every single day in training. And if he's not at his best, Edelman's there. I also wouldn't be shocked if Edelman earns that job as well on his own. Like you could totally see that happening here. I want to talk about his leadership, Justin, because again, he's 22 years old. People don't expect to have that as a talking point about a player like this. He was a captain for the US U20 side when they went to the U20 World Cup in 2023. He was their captain. He also captained the Red Bulls on multiple occasions, including in their rivalry match, the Hudson River Derby, where we pulled that quote about him loving to send flying tackles in on the blue and just loving to battle. He's not the biggest guy, right? He's 5'10", he's about $150, and he somehow gets up, he wins aerial duels. I'm just excited, Justin, I think, to have what potentially could be the player when you look at the opposition, you're like, God, I hate that guy. I think we might have that guy in our team now. Like, I'm not saying he's dirty by any means, but just a rabid, tenacious midfielder who does his job, does not ask for reward or does not ask for praise, but just gets in and does it dirty. Like gets his hands dirty, what I mean, like not in a dirty way. So I'm excited to have like that personality on this team. I think we need it, especially in that position. We just needed depth, honestly. But I think this guy comes in and should immediately fight for minutes and makes me more comfortable about who we have sitting in front of our back four or back five or whatever we got to do.
Exactly. And that's the one that, and I apologize, I was just reading something else, but bringing this back up and where I had to get into the defense of the Instagram, he only committed 14 fouls, Jake, in just over 2,000 minutes played last season. Durkin, in 2025, committed twice as many fouls in almost just half the minutes of Edelman at that point. So if you're talking about a guy that, yeah, people are like, oh, I love that you guys like trying to promote a guy that's getting a red card to get a dirty shot late in the game. It's like, no, he was 19 years old in that red card that he received in 2022 against Barcelona, trying to make a strong tackle, make a little name for himself. Now he's grown, and I would say that those numbers that you were seeing on his fouls are decreasing as the years are going on. And so a total of 14 fouls last year when he played 26 games. That's extremely impressive for a position that he's in. And also, Jake, I want to reiterate that when he does win the ball, or he's very good about using his body, even though he's not a big guy, he also had 40 fouls suffered against him last year. So that means that he is very good about putting his body in between him and the ball to make sure that he does not lose it in a terrible spot being right in front of our center back. So I'm really excited about this guy. When they sign him, I'm like, all right, who is this? Like, how is this kind of fitting in? But you know what? I think might as well. I think he could be a great fit for this team.
Yeah, and he's already here. He's already in day 2 now of training. He's in the photo shoot, so like he's already embedded. And again, he's a young guy. He's itching, chomping at the bit to play a big part in this team, and I think he will. I think this coach in Damet and I think Corey Ray are going to give him the chance to elevate his game here in St. Louis. We also saw an outgoing, not a permanent outgoing. We saw a loan. Christian Olivares, our third string goalkeeper and City 2 goalkeeper as well, was sent on a 1-year loan to USL Championship side Sporting Club Jacksonville. We can recall him at any time as a part of this loan. And I actually thought the most interesting part about this news was 2 things. One is that frees up a spot on the roster, right? Because we knew that, and we all talked about it with Mike on the show a couple of times, that Olivares was taking a spot on the roster. So getting him off that via loan, great move to free up some flexibility. 2, what Corey Ray had to say about him also gave me hope that he's part of the succession plan, actually. He said this loan gives Christian the opportunity to earn important minutes and continue his development for an exciting new project in Jacksonville. We're very high on his potential and believe this experience will help him grow into a better option for us while still giving the club flexibility to recall him if necessary. Just take it from a goalkeeper perspective, Justin, because there is no, like, for goalkeepers, take goalkeepers out for a second. If you're a defender, a midfielder, forward, and you're practicing your tail off, you're doing everything you have to do to impress your coaching and to get on the field, it's a little more difficult to get a couple of minutes as a goalkeeper, right? We're not subbing goalkeepers. So for a goalkeeper, you've got to get game experience. There is nothing you can do in training to replicate that sort of environment and the pressure that comes with shots that are, right at you, shots around you, crosses to handle. You got to just do that live in game against people that want to score on you and want to take you down. And I think him going to the USL is a great decision for us to give him minutes as long as Jacksonville's on board, which it sounds like they are. He's going to be their guy, and he's going to hopefully get 20, maybe 30 games out of this loan stint and come back with a full season of experience at a league higher than he was before on MLS Next Pro. So if he's actually part of our plans, this makes a ton of sense. I think we elevate Colin Welsh now. He re-signs with City 2 to fill another year and fill Olivares' void. And I think we know that our draftee, the Andrew Samuels goalkeeper that we drafted this past year from Princeton, will go back to Princeton. So from a goalkeeping situation, you're pretty set for this year.
Absolutely. I mean, it was tough when I first saw the news. I'm like, damn, why Oliveris? But it just makes sense, right? Just to get him more minutes, more playing time. And yeah, you try to ship out some of those guys when you think about field players, but truly as a goalkeeper, there are plenty of teams that are needing a guy, and he could play every minute of every game and just get, and honestly, probably for a team that is not as good, which means he is getting a lot more action. So if anything, he's going to be seeing a lot more shots and just going to be improving his game even further. So hopefully that's the best for him and we can bring him back, because I really appreciate watching him on City too. And I also think it's a great pipeline for us. And obviously, he's got a lot of skills that he has learned from TK, and you don't want to see that go to waste. So bring him back in. Would love to see it. But Jake, we also have some incomings, quote unquote, in air quotes. 2 trialists are with the team right now. At first, I saw some like, WTF is a trialist. How many do we get to choose? What is going on with this? But it's very easy. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for anybody that isn't really aware. But a trialist is basically like a preseason tryout for this player. And I hate using the word tryout and a trialist, but it really is. There's no contract. They don't have a roster spot. They're just here to try to see if they can impress and earn a spot. Teams usually bring in, from what I could tell, like 2 is a pretty solid number. 1 or 2, you don't want to bring, you can bring up, I think, to like 6. But what's the point at that point? Like, are you just throwing out the rest of your team? You also can't really analyze 6 guys along with the rest of your team. So the 2 that we currently have in are actually, first, I'm going to go down to the bottom one, and I'm going to let you take the other one. But Palmer Alt, who is Indiana's best player this past season, 16 goals and 10 assists, All-American, Mac Hermann Trophy semifinalist, Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. Prior to that, he was a Butler for 3 years, scoring 21 goals and assisting on 12 in 49 appearances. So he's, and what is that? 3/4 of the time, he had a goal contribution in his games. He was drafted in December of 2023 in the MLS 2024 draft. So yes, in December, but for the 2024 season by Colorado, but never signed. And Jake, the more that I watched him and kind of went back and looked at the games that SLU had against IU, he is an extremely versatile guy. And it's a weird connection that I made in my head, but it popped in there. Maybe I'm just making the SLU IU connection as well. Johnny Klein. It's a guy that's probably a little bit more undersized, but I think can be a utility player and kind of put anywhere on the field. And obviously he has a knack for the game when you put up those kind of numbers in college.
Yeah, I think they listed him at 5'10", so he's not a big forward, which I'm sure kind of hits the draft stock and just your chances of going too far, just given, who you got to stack up against some big boys on defense. But God, the output, the G's and A's, it's there for this guy, and playing at a top program that SLU knocked off in this tournament. I did also look that up. SLU did not concede any of those goals or assists that he had in this past season. They played him twice. So SLU actually ended his effective college career on their way to the Final Four. So little fun fact in there, but that guy excites me. I love that we're giving it a trial or some sort of tryout to a guy that, yeah, he may not be right for this league, but clearly he can do some things at scale for a big program against some big opposition in, one of the best conferences for soccer in this country. So I love giving him a look. And then on the very flip side, right, you have a guy that was drafted, never signed, continue going in college, got a lot of good accolades. And you have a guy like Lucas McNaughton, who is your kind of aging up, aging out MLS center back, where again, his path to get to where he is today is crazy. These notes you got, where grew up playing in Belgium, went the college route, went to University of Toronto, then worked his way through the Canadian Premier League, the CPL, with Pacific FC, who I feel like is always in and around like the Canadian Cup against your Torontos, your Vancouvers. And then he jumped to MLS with Toronto, then Nashville, then DC, where he just most recently was. He's had quite a way with injuries over these past couple of seasons. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, because I haven't seen, I think, but one since he entered MLS season where he got over 1,000 minutes. He's a guy, he's big. He's 6'2", he's almost 200 pounds, wins those aerial duels, tackles dribblers, a very stout, traditional type of center back defender, kind of like Lucas Bartlett vibes I was seeing when I was kind of reading about him and seeing some clips of him. And, for me, Justin, this is not a guy that to me at all resembles what you had in Henry Kessler. Like, that's totally different. Henry Kessler is the ball player. Like, he can fizz passes left and right, spray them forward at precision. This guy to me is a probably more trusted resource, if healthy, off the bench as a rotation option or an injury option if you need, a defending first type of center back. I don't think this is going to light the room up or make this team elevate in any way, shape, or form, but does he give you maybe a better option than a Yaro? Yeah, I would think so. Does he give you a better option than a Hebert? Maybe. So it's more depth at this position. We know how fast you can run through center backs, depending on what we're going to do. That might be really important. Like, we go back to a back three with 3 center backs, he might find himself on the pitch if he makes an impact here and gets signed.
Yeah, and so this one, Jake, it's not just that they're going to be practicing with us. These guys are going to be going to Florida with the team. And as we kind of mentioned that, I just want to touch real quick and on the full preseason schedule, as we mentioned Florida, Jake, and then we can go back up to the other comments that happened this week and some other signings. But full preseason schedule, January 10th through 11th, mandatory report date. Obviously, as of day of recording, January 14th. Hopefully, you guys aren't living under a rock and you saw that all the guys are back. We don't have any one of those standouts you see in Tristan Blackman. Standouts. I mean, one of the guys that are holdouts, Tristan Blackman for Vancouver, still not in camp because they have not signed a contract. You see it a lot more in like the NFL specifically, maybe a little NBA. Nothing with City here, so knock on wood, that's a great job for us in the offseason. Who didn't do very well in the offseason in San Jose. If you saw that stuff at Espinosa, that's nuts in my opinion. But would not be surprised if that somehow sneaks into another team because I feel like the rules in the MLS are just jumbled everywhere. Yeah. But I'll get back into it. January 12th through the 18th, what we're doing right now in St. Louis for training. January 19th, 5 days from now, they go down to IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. That's where both of our trialists will be joining the rest of the team as well. What are they doing while they're down there? They got a first match against New York Red Bulls on January 24th, and the second one against Tampa Bay Rowdies on January 28th. Then on 28th, we come back home, January 29th through February 2nd, train back into St. Louis. Then we go to Cali for 2 weeks, have a couple matches there, return to St. Louis on the 14th, which is exactly 1 week ahead of our first regular season match at Energizer Park versus Charlotte.
Yeah, preseason is always so with a new coach, I think we look at preseason way differently than we would if we had like a coach that just finished regular season then goes into preseason, because it's our first time to actually evaluate the coach as well. And it's so hard to make things of preseason just because you're not taking these games nearly as seriously as you would when you get into, the actual run of the mill regular season. So I'm excited about 6 matches. Wow. I mean, 2 in Bradenton, 4 in Palm Springs, only 2 of those being part of Coachella. There's other 2 closed door friendlies, but you're playing a lot of opposition on the West Coast that you will play very, very soon. In Portland, Austin, LA, and DC not being one. We are playing DC this year. So I'm excited about preseason. Again, it's a way for Damet to evaluate. They might take preseason a little more seriously than most teams will this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one where obviously Damet is trying to figure out a lot in the first couple practices. I don't want to get too much into details. Obviously, there's been a lot of great content put out by individuals about for this team that are talking about like what we're doing in practice, beep tests, technical skills. It's like at some point this guy just needs to see guys touch the ball. Like I don't think this guy's bringing in like he's not recreating the wheel and trying to just blow everything up from a training perspective. So got to take a step back there, I think, and just let these guys train and kind of enjoy it and get back into each other and get some chemistry with some of these new guys. But then once we get into it, Jake, he is going to have a lot of decisions when it comes to lineups, when you talk about formations, when you talk about timing of subs, who needs to be more fit. That's really where it's going to come into play. And that's why going down to Florida here in, 5 days to going down to Bradenton to have those 2 games, and then going over to California in the first 2 weeks of February are going to be extremely important for this team because God knows, how important it is, you can't come out flat in the MLS season because 34 games seems like a lot, but if you drop a first of those couple games, those points are going to nip you in the butt when it comes to playoff time and you are fighting for a playoff spot or fighting for the wooden spoon. You really don't want to be fighting for that. So you might as well lock in from the start.
In hindsight's 2020, but Justin, obviously we have a good network in and around the club, and didn't hear the best things about the 2025 prep preseason with the new coach Olaf Melberg at the time. So you can only go up from what we heard. I think Yoann Damet will be on it. He's got everything to prove here. I mean, he's got so much on his mind. Obviously, his mentor and his fellow head coach, that where he kind of got a lot of his experience, has been relieved of duties overseas, is looking for a job now probably, or taking some time. And he wants to make a name for himself. Like, Damet wants to do something. He wants to create a legacy. He wants to show that he belongs in the head coach position. So I know that he doesn't have as much control over the roster right now, and he's had so little time to really get integrated. But that he's going to want to build, a culture of his own, get his own fingerprints on this team culturally, and also start to incorporate elements of his vision. You may not be able to get Damet, 1.0 in the first couple weeks, months of the season. It might take time for us to really see what he's about, and he's going to be hamstrung because the player is probably likely will not fit a lot of what he wants to do, and we'll have to have turnover to accommodate for that. So this is definitely going to be a moving target, but it's excited to actually be moving. And I think we might see some more news here soon coming here, Justin. Probably not the most exciting, but in terms of like shrewd business, it sounds like Wallem it will be coming back to the team. Overseas, insiders and accounts have reported that he said his goodbyes to his Slavia Prague teammates and is bound for St. Louis City, where he was on loan last season. So pretty credible from what we were able to see, and I think a lot of folks in and around this community have said the same. He will be back, and it will be for less than what his initial purchase option was as part of that loan, which was really important for us because if we forked over that transfer fee that was part of the purchase option of the loan and his contract salary, he would be a DP. We cannot have Wallem be a DP. So he will not be a DP for us. I imagine we give him a 2+ year contract, give him some more term, buy him down with the transfer fee included in this whole acquisition using some target allocation money, and he is ours. And Justin, I've seen, I want to put this question to you because this is before Edelman was confirmed. Folks were saying, Wallem's going to come back. What about Wallem, back in midfield with Lupin and Cartel and Durkin? Like, I personally, I think we are going out and getting Wallem. I think he is etched into the left back spot. I think the left back spot is going to be his because Totland's back. And if you have a Wallem and Totland left back, right back, I think you're capable of flexing them both into wing backs if you need to, if you want to go 3. But they're also both good to stay in their own traditional kind of fullback positions. And I think Wallem could maybe even inch up into midfield if you ever have more of that inverting type system that I know a lot of good teams can do, where those fullbacks that don't like to run the channels can step in actually into midfield and help progress the ball like we know he can, especially on the dribble. But I do want to see him play in the defense, I think is my main point there. I do not think that we are going out and getting him to play midfield for us.
Yeah, that's the one thing. It's like he had that position when we played that 5 in the back, and now it's still like he is a little bit position less. But I think he has a ton of upside, so you don't want to miss out on that. But we also need to make sure that we're getting him minutes. I don't want to be paying a guy a lot to be coming off the bench. So, question, Jake, like, is it a possible left back position? Because if you're going to put Daniel Edelman next to Leuven, then you're going to put Wallem at left back, and then I think we just start channeling up that side because then you're going to have Totland at right back. I would hope, knock on wood, in my opinion.
Yep.
But then we're going to have 2 backs that get up and back quite a bit, and it could leave some center backs exposed. But maybe that's where you have Daniel Edelman that just sits with them. And you have almost like a triangle of those. I wouldn't call him a center back, but he's essentially playing 5-10 yards in front of them so that we're not completely exposed if both of them get caught up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of his strengths is his versatility, but it also I almost think became a weakness that Critchley and Olaf Melberg as well had to lean on just because of the injury crises at time is he almost kind of got a tough go at it because he had to play everywhere. He played everywhere because he's one of those trusted set of hands, and he's one of those, I think, frankly, he's probably one of the most technical players on the roster in terms of just baseline level of skill, his IQ, his comfortability on the ball. There's not many players on our team that have that. So I think they just said, hey, he's safe. I can play him anywhere I can, and he's athletic enough to kind of get away with it. I do feel like we would do right by him, though, by letting him go a mile deep in one position versus spread him out everywhere.
Right, exactly. He might do well being the utility guy, but how, as a player, do you get comfortable and then grow? And if you're continuing, like, you don't even know if you're – I mean, we had a problem with that with Olaf. You don't even know who's going to start, much less get off the bench. And now this guy, Wallem, you don't know where he's going to start, if he's going to start, or what position. I mean, we could even put him up at left mid for all we know, but I would really love to see him get a mainstay in one place. But Jake, something stuck out to me that you were just talking about. You talked about his IQ and comfortability on the ball. There isn't anybody that has better IQ and is more comfortable on the ball than Mr. Roman Berkey. He had some interesting comments for these videos from the first day of training. We're gonna roll these and let you guys hear them. Jake, just give me a thumbs up, make sure that you can hear them. Otherwise, we're gonna talk through them. But some interesting comments, and I'm excited to kind of debate and try to kind of break this down right after.
And all the guys that are here, that we are good enough to make the playoffs. That was the same last season. Like, I never had a doubt that we are not good enough players to make a playoff. We just need some additions, maybe. Not necessarily, maybe also quality-wise, but maybe also mentality, character-wise. Somebody who's just a little bit different than most of the guys that we have. But as far as it is now, I have no doubt that we are not good enough to make the playoffs.
So first, Jake, I want to take a quick pause. That last thing at the end there, I think it was a slip. I think it was a broken English. He obviously is saying that he thinks that we are good enough. He doesn't. He said it multiple times, and at the end, I think he threw an extra not in there. But there is then. Is there anything you want to break down on this, or you want to run straight into the second one and then break them both down?
No, I'll wait, but I agree. I don't think anyone can make anything of that. I mean, that's a tough. He kind of waded in some dangerous waters there, but let's roll the second quote and we'll break it down.
Promise someone I will do this something in a period of time. You have to wait until the time is over to judge, right? So the same is here. Like obviously, we are expecting the board to do something. Maybe bring in one or two players. But at the end of the day, if it works out the way we have it now, they were promising and they promised this and they held their word. So, yeah.
So, Jake, real quick on this one as well, and then I'm gonna let you go a little bit of a deep dive on it. But I've watched this a couple times. First, we could probably help him with his English a little bit. But I think it's a little bit of nerves as well, right? Because there's probably some frustration that I'm sensing, a little bit of an undertone, because he's mentioning the board in the front office, and I am thinking it brings me immediately back to like a Raven Simone moment of when he signed and he talked about having like a plan upcoming, and like he kind of alluded to like they showed him like the future of what they're going for. And now we're on January 14th, and I don't think Daniel Edelman was what Roman Berkey saw and was like, damn, I got to stay with this team. So it's probably like, what else is in the pipeline? But he kind of leaves a little bit of optimism. He's like, yeah, but if we do what we're doing, we'll be in a good spot. So it's like, it sounds like the wheels are turning and something's in the works, but he can't really mention it. So I think that's where, sorry, Roman, there's no chance he watches this, but wasn't trying to poop on your English. I think he just got a little nervous and trying to make sure that he was saying this correctly, because it's a very fine line that he's walking.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You know that I'm sure someone had a brief chat with him following that just to make sure we're all aligned. No, I think a couple of things for me stick out in this. I think one, like you tagged it back to his contract negotiations and what the club showed him that filled him with promise and wanting to come back and resign, even as a DP. I think he's going to hold them accountable or do his best. Like him mentioning the board in any way at all during a press scrum was not on my bingo card. So I definitely think there's a little bit of accountability that he's at least trying to initiate there. And I think more than anything, especially in that first quote, Justin, there's a fine line between good enough and good. And I think we're at a team right now where if everything goes semi-okay, which we know in the season that just doesn't really happen a lot, like last year, where we could maybe squeeze in the playoffs. We could maybe get in the playoffs. If that's the goal, that could maybe happen on just some good fortune, some good injury support, not a lot of crises like we had last year, some good goal out contributions from those that should provide it for this team. Things could go well. But are we in a position where we feel really comfortable with our sporting goals, whatever those are as a team? I think if I'm speculating and putting myself in his brain and his shoes, I think he knows that you are short in the difference maker department, right? You are short from a DP perspective. You are also short from a depth perspective, that if you do start to see some guys fall and you start to have some semblance of what happened last year where, God forbid Leuven goes down, or God forbid Leuven has to leave, or if Klaus goes down and he's not available, do you really feel good about our chances on any one of those major injuries happening, which could happen, right? This happens every year to some teams. Some big name goes down and your season is different for it. I think that's what he's really saying is we're short. If things go well, we could do some things, but we definitely need reinforcements to further solidify our aim of this season. That's what I at least take away from it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I still think that he is, and we should go back. I might do that right after this, Jake, and pull up, maybe do like a side by side of his comments that he made after he was announced as re-signing, and like he was literally like putting out his hand like a vision, if I remember this correctly. And I think he's still waiting for that. And to be fair, that is something that they cannot like bluff on. you have to be, and like if something falls through and he knows they tried, maybe, yeah, you can make that, you can kind of rearrange and kind of get that relationship renewed. But right now, it doesn't look like we've been doing what he had thought we would have been doing. And I think that's where he was kind of dancing a little bit carefully there.
It does fill me with optimism, though. Because again, he's throwing out the board and how the promises were made, and will they hold their word? I mean, that's your captain, the face of your franchise right now, on media, being shared around social media for all your fans to see. Now we all know what he's saying, and we only can go off of what he's saying. So, frankly, Justin, my mind goes to, okay, show me the money. If you guys are going to promise him those players, and you're going to promise the franchise and the fans players, like, show us. Go out, put your money where your mouth is. I have no doubt that actually filled me with a lot more of a sense of, I think we might be a little more aggressive than I had pinned us to be in the show last week, because you've got like Roman Bergen come out and saying stuff like that to a wide range of people. And typically, I feel like you see a little more tight-lipped in those sorts of questions and scenarios. So, yeah, maybe he got a little nervous and cracked a little bit more than he should have. But I think we're fortunate for it, because I think that, if anything, is more of a tell-all than what many players would have said.
Yeah, I completely agree, Jake. And I want to mention, I want to thank everybody. We're almost at 100 people in here live. This is awesome. We're having a lot of comments and questions come in, Jake. So anybody, as you're listening to these, we are going to handle all of those at the end of this. We've had a couple through Instagram and Twitter as well, or X. I'm never going to get over that, dude. It's just like doing Energizer Park and City Park. I need to get there. But I want to thank everybody for doing that. And also, Jake, I want to give a quick shout out and thank you to our sponsor, DraftKings. DraftKings is the official sports book of and our betting partner of the NFL. Every playoff moment can be bigger with DraftKings. You need to download the DraftKings Sportsbook today. If you bet $5, Jake, and your bet wins, you will get paid $300 in bonus bets instantly. You know that you got that college football playoff coming up this coming Monday. You also got, 4 NFL games this weekend? I'm currently watching the SLU Bills in the background right now. That team's going to the Final Four. Put some money on it. I absolutely love it. But obviously, you need to bet responsibly. But download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code BWSTL. That's code BWSTL. Turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins, in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass through may apply in Illinois. 21 or plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive the bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required is -500 for this. For additional terms and responsibly gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Jake, I need to do better about my reading skills. I am almost 31 years old, and that is still tough for me to do, but I promise I'll be better going forward.
No problem, man. No problem. Now,
hey, guess what? We're now over 100.
Yeah,
people love my reading skills. If you guys want to, it's like me. Now we need to put out that GIF of like 50 Cent reading a book and sweating, and it's like a page of a Harry Potter book. That's me.
So, I mean, let's jump into the rest here, Justin, because we will have a spicy topic to round out with, and we'll take any questions people want to throw our way. But I wanted to get into this count. It actually came out before the signing news and the loans and stuff that we just kind of talked about now. But Coach Yoann Damet does now have his formal technical staff, and there is a lot of turnover compared to what it was before. Before I even get to there, Justin, it was news a couple months ago when Mike Sorber, one of the most famed, I feel like, St. Louisan soccer players, coaches in this community, took a job with St. Louis City SC. I think we were on the Soccer Dad pod, guys, and they had talked about, he needs to be brought into the organization. That was a year plus ago, but City finally sunk their claws into him, got him inside the walls, and I think he was the U16 coach for the academy. He has since been, and this is not confirmed by the club yet, but since been plucked. And he is now going to be a first-team assistant coach for Michael Bradley's New York Red Bulls, as I mean, obviously they're in a big rebuild of their own as well. But for him, I don't know, going from U16 Academy, yes, it's for your locale, but he's got deep roots as well with Michael Bradley and that relationship as well, and building something special in New York. I get it. him jumping at that time. It's a bummer, I think, for any of those kids that would have played for him, and City for having a guy that cares so much about St. Louis soccer. But that was sort of the news that threw a little bit of water otherwise on the other technical news we're going to get into. But any thoughts on Mike Sorber, Justin?
Yeah, I'm just pretty confused by this, Jake, because we dropped an article on August 11th of 2025. So this relationship lasted 5 months, almost to the day, from when we've been seeing this news, and it's a little shocking to me, knowing that he's a St. Louis guy through and through. He's from St. Louis. I don't know. It's just very surprising to me. They put even like City felt so strongly about it that they have a reel out here for him 3 months ago as well. So I would love to hear a little bit more about this. I have a couple friends that know Mike and the family. So obviously I think it would be a pretty strong relationship that he must have up there in New York. And obviously it's a great opportunity for the guy, right? I don't want to turn it completely down. If you're looking to do something and you're looking to be an academy coach for City or a first team assistant for New York Red Bulls and someone that is trying to rebuild something, that's a great step. But it's a little bit of a surprising one to me.
Yeah, it's hard to turn down, but I think you get it. And obviously the hires that we do now have on our first team staff. So not, household or name brand people by any, stretch or imagination. We had to do our research on them, but we have 2 new assistant coaches. We have a new assistant coach who also does individual development with the players. We are maintaining our director of goalkeeping and set piece coach, Alex Langer, who we've already talked about, ad nauseum. He is both the goalkeeper coach as also set pieces, both offense and defensive set pieces. And we have a new director of scouting. But before I get into those names, Justin, we have 2 assistant coaches I mentioned at the top, David Savri and Marcelo Sarvas. So the 2 things that stick out to me about both guys respectively is Savri, both of them, by the way, Sarvas and Savri, both had time with Damet as part of the LA Galaxy 2 setup. So they have a level of familiarity built in already. They know what Damet is about. They've worked under him before. However, with Savri, he's gone on to, I really think, focus very, very heavily on coaching. He was most recently coaching as an assistant coach in Belgium's first division. He did the same assistant coach at Montreal underneath Courtois. We said LA Galaxy already. So a lot of coaching, 20 plus year professional relationship with Damet. He kind of brings that coaching identity. You bounce ideas off of someone else that has been in the room for a long time with you. Sarvas is a little bit different in that he had a very, very big and solid playing career as well. So he brings a lot of that experience. He's a 2-time MLS Cup champion as a player, played in Brazil, Sweden, Poland, Costa Rica, obviously MLS as well. So he kind of blends that elite top level playing experience with a good foundation of coaching experience as well. Actually, already haven't gotten that at LA Galaxy 2. And also in their academy with U17, U19. So you kind of have 2 sides of the coin. And I think it's good to have 2 guys like that as your kind of right and left hand man, because there's a player perspective on a lot of things. There's a coaching perspective on a lot of things. And I feel like you're kind of blending the 2 with these 2 new assistant coaches.
Yeah, Jake, that's extremely important. This is one where you put this in here and I'm like, God, do listeners really care about who our assistant coaches are? But you can take a step back on anybody that's ever played sports, or honestly, you can even apply it to everyday life. As you go into a new job or a new team of any sort, yeah, you might have some of your familiar faces if it's a new team and you're going to bring some of your buddies with you. Those are the players. However, you're obviously going to be graded by other individuals and you have to impress them, but then also want to work for them. And if you're not having a good time working for them, you're not going to perform well on the field or doing your job either. So I think this is going to be an extremely important. And I like that Yoann almost brought in guys that he trusts or already has before, because I think that shows character. I think that's showing that he trusts these individuals, that they can do the right thing, because he knows the chemistry that Critch built, that Hacks built in this club is strong. And the last thing you can do, if you've seen it with Olaf, is lose the locker room, because once you do that, it shows immediately on the field as well. So I think these guys are going to be extremely important, not only from a soccer sense, but also a personal sense, because this is a very, very fun group of guys that love playing with each other. And if they're not having fun on the field for whoever they're playing for, they're not going to be having fun in the locker room. Then it's going to show into their personal life, and then it's going to come right back around into training, and then it's going to be a downward spiral. So these guys are going to have an extremely important role underneath of Yoann Damet.
Side note, before I get into our final 2 names, there are that Critch is sticking around. He will become City 2's head coach again. for this 2026 campaign. And the assistant coach that was with Critchley as well, I'm forgetting his last name, but Elvier, who's been with the club for a while now, will also go with Critchley to City too. So we're keeping people in-house. We're bringing some new names in, another new name that will be in the touchline. And I love this role, Justin, because I've seen this. The first time I ever saw it was with the Amazon Prime documentary All or Nothing when Arsenal was on it, with an assistant coach whose role is also individual player development. And this is a newer role, in my opinion, that's kind of blossoming in the soccer scene where, and a coach, of course, but also someone that can go one-on-one with someone and focus on, your plan as a player and what the club wants you to be, what the coach wants you to be. And instead of, all team training all the time, maybe you pull that person aside every once in a while and you guys have your own plan together on what you're working towards. Maybe Klaus is going through a scoring drought and you're spending extra time with him, both in the film room and on the pitch, doing drills, doing exercises, doing things like simulation, where you really try to get him past this, drought of his own. And it could work for any player in any position, but someone that's working one-on-one, doing development, that helps kind of bridge that technical growth with a very professional mindset. And that person for us is going to be Baggio Husidic. So he will be an assistant coach also in charge of player development. But Justin, I was saving this for last because this person won't be in the touchline, but they will be very much working hand in hand with both Damet and Corey Ray. And they are a SLU grad. How much better could it get? Colin Rooney is joining as our director of scouting. Where's he coming from? He's coming from Everton in the Premier League. Where was he before that? He was at Toronto for a time. He was at Galatasaray for a time in Turkey as a technical scout. He's a SLU grad, like I said, a dual U.S. Croatian citizen. He was a contributor to the 2017 MLS Cup at Toronto and multiple trophies after that. He's a special background guy. I think what he's been able to do overseas in Everton and what I looked at in Galatasaray and Toronto as well, being there for a lot of their golden years, I love this, Justin. Did we even have a director of scouting before Colin Rooney took the mantle? I don't even know.
I don't know if we had a formal name on one. I knew that it was a little bit of a smaller team, so I think this is going to really help bolster that. And I think it's awesome. Obviously, if I'm looking at the right Colin Rooney, Jake, he played at SLU. There's no way that I'm looking at the wrong one as well. So on the 2005 SLU men's soccer team from Kirkwood, Missouri, went to your alma mater to Smet. So it's awesome, one, to have someone come back home in that role. But then two, you already mentioned some of these things, but like what he's done in his career and traveling and kind of just being like the guy for as far as scouting goes in the MLS for Europe for some of these top teams. When he was with Toronto FC, he won trophies, including the 2017 MLS Cup Championship, 4 Canadian Cup Championships, the 2017 MLS Supporter Shield as well. He's also a dual American and Croatian citizen. He spent time in Croatia scouting for European players for Toronto FC as well. So this is a guy that has a lot of experience, and I think it's going to be awesome that he is now going to be able to apply that to his hometown.
No, it's so cool. I mean, what a dream for him too. I'm sure what I'm saying is it's great. It's a local guy, right? He's not local anymore, but he grew up at St. Louis and he knows what St. Louis is. You know what St. Louis soccer is, but he's spent so much time outside of St. Louis, like growing, like you look at his roles, head of scouting for Europe, head of scouting for Mexico and Central America. What better time could we get a new director of scouting than right now, where I feel like we've kind of been going to the same crop for all of our signings these last couple of years, and that's a lot of Lutz, right? But I want us to diversify. There's so many, lush talent pools outside of just Europe. Maybe he dips his toes into South America, and we start to unearth some gems here and start to bring them through St. Louis as a starting way. And I like it for so many reasons. And he's obviously been performing at Everton now for just over a year, but at Toronto for almost 11 during some really, really good times for Toronto. So hoping he can bring some of that success here.
And Jake, there is a connection with Toronto that obviously everybody has been seeing all over Twitter this week. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to Tom Barlow as well. For anybody that hasn't seen him, speaking of St. Louis soccer, he's been in the MLS for, it's probably been almost 10 years now, which is making my stomach drop considering we played with him. But with the Rebels and then the Fire, and now he just got signed, 3 days ago now by Cincinnati. So huge congrats to Tom. I'm excited to see him continue to grow there. Him and the family have been moving there. I was just texting him the other day. He's given us some insights on Daniel Edelman, said that he's a great guy. He really appreciated playing with him with his time up in New York. If you watch that video on our Instagram, that's what made it click in my head, Jake. Tom is the one that pats him on the back after getting the red card against Barcelona. So shout out to Tom. I'm excited to watch him continue to grow in the MLS and very excited to see him go for Cincy. And Jake, he said, if we ever want to come up, you can get us some tickets. So that might be a fun little road trip. City doesn't play him this year, but it could be a nice little drive, a little getaway for the boys. And we'll figure that one out. But Jake, bringing us into our last main topic before we go into listener questions, why is Toronto FC in the news?
Yeah. Well, Toronto FC is in the news because they've got Michael Bradley as their new head coach, and they're doing things very differently now. We knew they were going to do things differently when they went out and bought Georgi Mihailovic for $9 million in August. And, he was in Colorado. Sounds like wanted to change the scenery. Toronto obviously was festering at the bottom of the table. They have decided to put their big boy pants on, open up those purse strings, and put down an $18 million bid for St. Louis's own Josh Sargent, who is currently playing for Norwich City in the championship in England. Norwich isn't in the best of ways this season. They're in a relegation battle. Things aren't looking great for them. In context on Josh, he has 7 goals in 23 league games played this season. He's dealt with a little bit of injuries here this year and many years as well. Kind of on the outside of the U.S. men's national team picture at this point. But we knew that he was pursuing a change of club, a change of scene this past summer. He had, it sounds like, was almost in the final details of a Wolfsburg transfer to Germany. And from what I heard on podcasts and writing and other media outlets was he was prioritizing family and that he didn't want to disrupt what he had in Norwich in the end. And he liked, because he's been there since 2021, I believe. And he made a decision and wanted to stay. Now, Justin, they put this bid down in Tom Bogert's report about this. His direct quote was, "Player wants this." So Josh has clearly signaled intent that he wants out. Is it all or nothing on Toronto? I don't know if I buy that yet, but Toronto's put down the biggest bid so far. I haven't heard that it's been rejected, but he sat out of this past weekend's FA Cup game. So it's important to him.
Yeah, that was the weird part, Jake. It's not that he sat out because it was Norwich's decision to make sure they didn't get injured before he might try to let him go. It was his. So when you read the quote from Norwich's head coach Clement, it says, "Josh sent me a message," and that was on Saturday evening, saying he would not be available because of transfer things in his head after being linked with the Toronto FC move. He said, Clement goes on to say, "This is obviously not something we want and will have consequences. It is something that we need to speak inside the club, but the club has made it clear, really clear to Josh and his agent that he will not be leaving during this transfer window." So after that came out, and that was 3 days ago, articles saying about that. I don't think that Toronto is going to be getting him regardless of the amount of money it throws at it. But Jake, what really got people stirring, and I just want to get I think I already know your thoughts on this because I saw your post. It's just we obviously, if you go back to Taylor Twellman's tweet or maybe I forgot who said, but we have discovery rights on Josh Sargent. So what that means it's been a while since we talked about the term, because I think they did away with it now, correct?
Yep.
That you can no longer have discovery rights, but we got grandfathered for having these. They're not going to just wipe them away just because they got rid of the rule going forward. But it means that we have the right of first refusal to sign him. If he comes to the MLS, it's our choice to do it first, and then we can pass on it. When I say pass on it, we would sell those rights. So everybody on Twitter is like, all right, 1, why are we not doing a bid? And 2, we better be compensated for it. So Jake, I want to get both of your thoughts on this. On 1, do you think that we should be putting in some sort of a bid once it becomes something that, obviously, if Josh wants out, maybe we could have thrown a bid out there, but obviously the club's not going to let him go. So there's no point in trying to throw a bid out there and just getting a bidding war for no reason at this point. And then 2, what kind of transfer fee do you think we could get for selling his rights? Because what was Marco Royce's
400.
400K?
Yeah. And there's so many different layers to this, and it's so hard to break down. But I put out a post on X saying it's a pass for me. At these terms, Josh specifically, I love Josh. I've met Josh. He's a fantastic guy, and him playing at Gallagher and just being so, engaged with St. Louis. And I would love nothing more to see him don a St. Louis City uniform and be a part of our team. I just fear that the timing isn't great, given he's in his athletic prime for forwards. He's entering that right now. I think he's going to be 26 if he's not already. And he's had a horrible time of injuries over the last couple seasons as well. And 18 million, Justin, that would be the third highest transfer fee in MLS history. It heaps a lot of pressure onto him as well, because he would be the first big American to come back. He'd be the first. I'm not saying he'll be the last. The first big American of recent, by the way. There's been Michael Bradley's, there's been Donovan's, there's been others before him, but he'd be the first big one to come back in recent years. So I feel like for St. Louis, it doesn't make as much sense right now. Also, I don't think ownership at the time are willing to fork over that fee. It was 28 million, by the way, in the summer. Now it's 18. And I do not think this is close to ending, frankly. I've seen this saga before. The club comes out, says they are not going to sell him. He pushes hard enough. He sits out of training. They are buying themselves effectively time to go find someone else to go replace him before they sanction his departure. And in the meantime, they're putting out feelers to clubs all around Europe, to German Bundesliga clubs, to Premier League clubs, to fellow championship clubs, saying, hey, the bid's 18. You want to do 19? You want to do 20? And a bidding war starts on this guy. So if Josh just wants out of Norwich, I think he can get his way. If he specifically wants the MLS, Toronto might find it hard if they get pulled into a bidding war with other teams around and they want to keep building out their team, because they just don't have the pockets that some other European suitors might have. But maybe Josh wants the States. The last thing I'll say that you read the quote, Justin, which I'm glad you did, is I hope that he has good advisors in his camp, because frankly, when I heard that he texted the coach saying like his mind wasn't really in it for this game, I get the content. I don't love the delivery of the message, right? Like, go into the office and just tell him kind of what's on your mind and work through it together. And I just hope that he's being given good sound advice right now, because this is probably his last big thing, right? Like, this is it. I'm not saying this is his last contract, but it's his last big contract, probably his last big move. You want to make sure you do right.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, he's unhappy with where he's at, and he wants to move out. I don't know if that necessarily means that it's Toronto, or if he just wants to be stateside. Like you said, if it's for his family, maybe he does want to come back to the States. It's going to be an interesting one. Like you said, it's far from done. I think there's going to be a lot of moving parts in this. But I also don't know if, like, when you think about the big spenders in the MLS, I don't see him like fitting in with like an LAFC style or a Miami style or things like that. So ironically, I could see him going to like a Chicago Fire or a Cincy, somewhere more in the Midwest, like St. Louis. I just don't see us wanting to make that spend, but it would be something more of like one of those Midwest teams and one of those styles that's a little bit more less on the tiki-taka and just more on the brute force, kind of like the old school MLS. So there's definitely some options. I think there's a lot more to come to this story, but I think we just need to duck on it a little bit.
Yeah,
and we'll continue to monitor it and get some posts up when there's credible things. I don't want to just always grab and go as quickly as we can with some of this stuff, but this is an interesting story nonetheless.
He was linked to Cincy last year. Like, Cincy was definitely putting some word in on Josh Sargent, which I think would have been a good fit as well for him. And again, Justin, if things had gone right with our team, where, you know, we kind of talked about like this is supposed to be like one of our big competitive years with how the contracts and the roster's currently built out right now with some of your big boys, you know, terming out at the end of next season and this season. If things had gone right, I think this is great. This is the guy that hopefully pushes you over the top, you know, bags you another 20, 25 goals in a season, becomes your focal point up top, but we're not there. So it just feels like the wrong place to do that right now. And I'm not saying you can now go out and buy two $10 million players. I don't think we're going to do that either as a club. I just think if we're going to get aggressive in the market, I just don't think that's at this exact moment for that prime age striker, right? Because we want to buy, in my opinion, a little bit more of runway to our roster, because we have a lot of guys that are at the very end of theirs on our higher end of the payroll. So it wouldn't be very continuous or balanced of us to do that and bring in a guy in his prime. But again, as a fan, that'd be freaking awesome. We'd break the jersey sale record, and it'd be so fun to just root for him all season. So I try to balance like trying to break it down and like be a fan, because it's fun to also think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one that they're definitely considering, just the want and where the fans are sitting today, but it's also got to be balanced with a realistic expectation and a realistic dollar sign, because you don't want to hamstring the club for years to come just to sign the homegrown guy, right? But that hair with that red jersey would be pretty funny. So absolutely, I'm always on board for a little spice there, and we'll continue to keep up on it. But Jake, I got 2 questions from listeners I want to hit us with before we get to the full hour mark. One, Fet Lord Colton. One, also drop a comment on where that comes from and where you made this logo. But is Lillington our third center back then? So you're looking at like Baumgartel, you're looking at Fall. Obviously, you got backups with Hebert and Yarrow. And then we still waiting on a little bit of a King Kess there. Like, where is Lillington the guy that would be, as of right now, be our third string center back?
I mean, he's getting the go, right? He was your first round pick out of UC Davis. He made a lot of appearances for them, and he looks the deal. But again, coming from college, you never know what really is going to translate there. I think if he has a good preseason, I could absolutely see him making the roster because that's a position that we need some depth in right now, some solid depth. And again, he has a lot of runway, whereas some of our center backs don't. So I think it's his job to win a piece of right now. I don't think he should be looking at starting, match 1 and, as your 1A, 1B with Fall the rest of the year. I still think we need a proven, experienced center back to come in, but I'm all for him looking to win some minutes.
Yeah, and I think that you also have the option here on the trial list, Lucas McNaughton as well. Because if we look at that, he is a guy that's got experience in the league. I would say his injuries are a concern as he's missed almost a full year in total in the last 2 years. But a guy to kind of keep in the fold as well. So you're unsure. We'll kind of see how that plays out. And here's another one, Jake. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. This is from Landon Crete. And it says, do we know at all what formation the new gaffer is running? First, I don't use the term gaffer, but I respect the individuals that do. I don't have the top hat in my closet. But no, I don't think we do. I think this has been held a little bit closer to the chest. Obviously, he's just trying to get to know the guys right now. But Jake, if we don't know, if you haven't heard anything else, what do you think that he could be going with?
Yeah, I think Tom Timmerman straight up asked him this exact question during their media scrum, and he danced around it. Because I think the name of the game isn't so much like what formation it's going to be, like what can make us compete on the pitch, because it might change game to game, and it might change within the game. So I don't really think the formation matters as much as what you're getting out of it. But if I was realistic, like with the roster we have right now, I'm going to go ahead and assume Wallem's coming. I'm probably, just because we don't have the good center backs I think we should have to do a 3-back system. We don't have enough solid center backs. I think we got to limit the amount of center backs in the pitch. So I'm going to go 4 in the back, and I'll probably return to a 2-3-1 maybe. And, that probably gets you Durkin and, Durkin or Leuven, or Edelman and Leuven in that holding 2. And it gives you, your winger 10s on the wide sides of Hartel that makes the tip of the spear in the 3, and then Klaus up front. I'm like, I'd probably do a 4-2-3-1 if what we had today was what we are going to have.
Yeah, it's hard for me to not picture a 4-2-3-1 with this team, especially since we haven't made a whole lot of moves that would be screaming to me that we should change a formation. But Jake, it's his birthday today. And I'd like to throw the idea in there of toy shirt. I like that. I like a back season for this guy. If I could find some, and I'll work with DraftKings on it. If I find like some kind of line specifically for toy shirt on a season, I'd like a little bit of a spice for when he came in 2024 and showed us what he had. I could see him playing underneath the Klaus. You move Hartel to the right, you put a Celio or a Sangbin on the left, and we just go at these teams. And then you have that rock behind them. If you want to do a Durkin and a Leuven, or Edelman and a Leuven playing in front of a back 4, I think that would be a pretty strong and pretty fun team. And then you obviously have a lot of guys as well. You get Simon Betcher, who's going to be growing and probably at what I would say probably his peak physicalness when you think about his age in that sense right there. So shout out to the Slew Billiken. And it's going to be an exciting year regardless. We don't need to be a whole lot of signings. Yes, we didn't play well last year. I think we struggled with a lot of injuries, a lot of time missing for Leuven as well. We still have our spine there when you look at that, from a Berkey to a Leuven to a Hartel to a Klaus. And I think that we have plenty of pieces that can mold around them with a new coach and a great new staff.
Yeah, I think it gets back to one of the points you made, and maybe we can end it here. Like, is this team on paper right now good enough to, and I'm just keep saying make the playoffs, because I feel like that's what the sporting goal behind their doors probably is. I don't know if that's what we all feel is really success at this point, but if that's what it is, yeah. If things go right, go well, go as expected, which they never do, I think this roster could do that. They could just squeeze their way in. I don't think that should be the barometer and like where we set our goals. But yeah, I think if everyone can have a good season and people maintain health relatively, and you continue to fill in the roster these next couple of weeks and month or so with the couple of pieces that provide you depth or maybe a difference maker and a new DP or something like that, I think we have the tools to do something. It is by no means the finished product, though, at all. And it's going to be a battle all season. There will be no easy games for this team this year. Every single game will be, to me, like a fresh challenge. There is no one you can look over.
Yeah, but regardless, I am excited for this team. Yeah. It's great to see the guys back in town. It's been, like we said, a pretty quiet last couple weeks. You could see things are starting to ramp up right before camp, and I do not see that dying down at all in these next, 37 days that we have left before kickoff. When you talk about the preseason games, the closed door scrimmages as well, some possible more signings coming through. So I'm excited for this team, Jake. And I want to thank everybody again. We have almost 140 people in here. This is awesome. We love seeing you guys back, and we are happy to do it for you guys. So please continue to DM us with any comments, questions, topics. We really appreciate it, especially in this time where it's a little bit slower. We're working on some bigger stuff behind the scenes, interviews, World Cup stuff. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun 2026.
Yeah, and next time we talk to you all will be just a couple of days before the first preseason match where we can wildly overreact to. So look forward to that. Should be fun. But yeah, thanks all for listening. And if you like the show, make sure you throw us a like on YouTube, throw us a subscribe on YouTube, follow us on X and Instagram at BallWatchingSTL. We're putting out some fun stuff recently. Got to keep things light and loose in the off season. There's not a whole lot to talk about. There's been more, thankfully so. But in the meantime, hope you all have a great rest of your week, and all for City.
All for City.